Und was auch sonst nicht immer. So, die Audio passt wieder.
I've been living a lie. For years, I thought of myself as a fan
Ich
of
kann es
the
ein bisschen
Monkey
lauter
Island
machen,
games,
ja.
despite having only played one. I'd gotten into the beginning of the fourth as a teen and liked it enough to start researching all the wikis for the rest of the story, filtered down to bits and pieces that sounded cool and funny and weird. I bought the Telltales, bought the remasters, got distracted and didn't finish any of them. Why? I do not recall, it could be anything. And still thought, oh look, I'm the Monkey Island fan. Check me. Well, now I've played all five with more experienced, partially keratoconic eyes, and
Wirklich so mit dem besten, also meine Art von, also den Humor einfach zwischendurch unterzubringen.
frankly, I'm not the fan I thought I was. I've developed an entirely different understanding of the series, why it got people's attention, why its popularity stagnated even beyond getting tied up in a Disney buyout. You see, this isn't the funny wacky pirate series I'd been led to believe all these years. It's barely a series at all.
Oh, story of my life.
The story of the game's genesis has been well told, born out of Ron Gilbert's fascination with the book On Stranger Tides by Tim Powers, a spooky pirate novel, as well as the Pirates of the Caribbean ride at Disneyland. He would wander about the world beyond it, what it might be like to escape the confines of the ride and go exploring, and it's these concepts mixed together that forms what most of us know as Monkey Island. Guybrush Threepwood washes ashore one day with dreams to become a pirate in a very piratey land. He gets involved with all the expected cliches, falls in love, sword fights, sails a ship, the good stuff, but the great gimmick at this point is Monkey Island's more modern, lopsided sense of humour and how it functions as a video game. The surprise and constant joy of discovering what it really was came in the act of how it feels, even now, more mechanically playful than people give it credit for. I've talked to many about how my love of the Metal Gear series comes from how, as you play the game kinda plays back. And that same appeal is right here in MI1, let me tell you. I've gotten used to most point and clicks maxing out hard on dialogue trees and combination puzzles that frankly border on ludicrous, but Monkey Island has a sense of logic that encourages you to participate with some naturalism, all while trying to make you laugh. It's not just use this with that or find the correct dialogue option, it's follow that guy, learn the format, keep switching flasks, haggle the price down, use this as a guide and then talk to it, make nice. Had to be grabbing a notepad, it's just nice to feel needed again, you know? This gives Monkey Island its own unique edge that being a regular swashbuckling adventure wouldn't have achieved. Our villain and heroine aren't exactly typical, one a ghost, the other a seasoned adventurer and governor, haughty but nice. The dialogue is super casual and funny. Sometimes the way alternative options are worded is enough to get a laugh. Insult sword fighting, learning the etiquette of what makes a good comeback, actually feels like I'm using this sponge in my head for a change to overcome these rapscallions. Haha! Yes, it's a pirate adventure, but it's a video gamey-ass video game, and it's constantly asking itself how it can best transfer the excitement onto me as a point and click, keeping me at ease by throwing in a bunch of anachronisms and funny characters that I kept probing just to see what would happen. It's a way to experience the thrill of...
Ich liebe diesen... Hier, das mit dem...
characters that I kept probing just to see what...
Das ist die geilste... Vor allem, weil das einfach so vollkommen optional ist, dass wenn du immer wieder aus diesem Raum rausfließt, die einfach jedes Mal die Security irgendwie erhöhen, bis du irgendwann diesen kompletten Overkill irgendwie hast. Oh, das war wirklich einfach das hatte ich auch in einem Podcast, also der kommt irgendwann 200 Jahre mal, wenn ich ihn fertig geschnitten habe, aber auch nochmal drüber, weil du hast in Point-and-Click-Adventure halt so eine Moon-Logic die ganze Zeit, aber dadurch, dass das Monkey Island schon so abgedreht ist und einfach verrückte Dinge passieren, fängst du irgendwie gefühlt an, auch in dieser Moon-Logic irgendwie zu denken und Dinge ergeben irgendwie mehr Sinn. So, Dinge passen einfach mehr zusammen, dass du, okay, das ist dieses verrückte Item. Ja, okay, das kann ich wahrscheinlich hier an dem Punkt einsetzen, was irgendwie scheinbar passt mit Comic-Logik.
Would happen. It's a way to experience the thrill of being a pirate without any of the real nastiness or grit that actually comes with the life, very in keeping with its Disney roots and kind of laughing at them. It's funny, charming, surprising, everything people told me it would be, and with that I assumed they would also be right about how, from what I'd heard, Monkey Island 2 was the funniest, most rib-tickling adventure game around. But Monkey Island 2 doesn't feel funny. Not exactly. Just deeply, deeply sad.
How did you get into this mess?
It's kind of a long story.
That's That's okay. I've got time.
The thing everyone remembers about Monkey Island 2 is the ending, because it's this horrible gut punch that refuses to give you any answers, and some believe it's shockingly random, out of place with the rest of the story, a complete left field response. I'm not sure why, because the entire game has the exact same feel.
When I return, I'll have riches galore and a whole new story.
Or you'll have died trying.
MI2 feels
Muss ich sagen, die beste Möglichkeit, Monkey Island 2 ist wirklich in dem Director's Cut einfach, dass du die Synchro zusammen mit der originalen Optik benutzen kannst. Das ist, finde ich, so eine geile Erfahrung. Also vor allem weil es ja auch noch in der Serie passt, weil sie ja da auch die späteren Sprecher genommen haben, dass selbst wenn du dann die Serie chronologisch durchspielst, du nicht irgendwie so einen komischen, weirden Cut hast, sondern, okay, die Leute, die halt später die Spiele sprechen, die sind jetzt auch in den ersten Dingern mit dabei.
Feels so disturbingly brittle, a hollow, disconcerting experience. While still an adventure, it's much less swashbuckling and more melancholic, in a world that's over itself, mean-spirited humour from characters who don't seem to care what happens anymore. Bullies and dictators all pose a great threat to the islands, but are never overthrown entirely. Corporate imagery has doubled, with pirates being way less piratical. Herman Toothrot has become a faux philosopher. Elaine wants nothing to do with you and holds parties full of complete assholes.
So then she looked at my treasure and said, nice booty, and I...
Cheap sexual innuendo.
Oh, and then the pirate lady said, hey, it's a nice booty there.
In fact, Guybrush is something of an asshole epicenter. Still an enthusiastic pirate with a lot more experience under his belt and a dashing new look, but it's suggested right from the start that he's more desperate than in Monkey 1. Clues revealing him to be an abject failure in an untold story that's never quite brought to the surface. And that's not even touching on the other thing going on here, you know, the other story not being told.
The arm bone's connected to the head bone.
Wow, they're good.
I liked MI1 a lot because it was a very playful game, extremely funny, deconstructing the nature of itself and trying to come up with new mechanical ways to make me laugh. MI2 is not that. In fact, I'd say mechanically it's probably a lot shallower, more like a regular point and click where all the answers are more accessible, and less reliant on systems unique to itself, though even those exceptions are less intense than the original's active nature.
Bestes
That's dropped
Rätsel.
in favor
Das
of a
mit der
heavier
Tür.
focus on
Liebe
art
ich bis
and
heute.
writing, which is no bad thing
Auch
unto
guter
itself,
Partytrick.
nor is it not always funny. It can be a very funny game, but it's not the laugh riot I was sold on, and I sort of absolutely 100% loved it. There's a creepy thrill to MI2 I've never felt before, not because of the, spooky boo stuff, because the whole game feels lifeless. I'm less juddery about the creepy zombie stuff than I am the real zombies, the dead-eyed hucksters, unenthused about the world of pirates and just trying to sell their wares.
3-hour tours.
Even the colour palette is scarier. All those extra gigs and bits used to give Monkey 2 a surreal appearance. I can't quite put my finger on it. Somebody in the comments will do it. Somebody in the comments always manages that. When you think of it that way, and the series' origins, and the demand there must have been for a sequel that the team weren't even sure they could entirely fulfill, I think this attitude makes more sense, and makes the ending that much more powerfully unsettling.
What's going on?
We're scolding you for running off. Your mother and I were very concerned.
Like anyone else, I wanted to know more, so I went ahead and did a lot of extensive reading, and yeah, I'm very on board with the world of Monkey Island not being real. While there is a hook to suggest that the ending is an illusion, apparently an out Gilbert gave for a potential sequel, with or without him, most of the evidence points to him wanting to add that layer since Game 1, which when replayed also comes across as a child wandering into a theme park. Blundering into a ride's secret magical world, lots of documented evidence on that one. It's suggested that the jokes in MI1 are actually sometimes not jokes, and there are huge lists of how many anachronisms in both games correlate to theme park imagery more than anything else. Even the inside jokes hit nearer to that these days. So now 2 breathes an entirely new kind of life into 1, and makes both games a great loop of intrigue. A lot of people are keen to write this off as haha, funny joke in funny game series, and yeah, they are funny jokes, but they're way too intentionally directed at a bigger joke, the mother of all jokes, one you're meant to respond to with big whoop. That's not to say I don't think there isn't and shouldn't be another sinister level to that. Of course, it's too good that whatever response you choose at the end will be overwritten by Chucky's answer.
Ich habe halt immer noch nicht Return gespielt, das heißt, ich weiß jetzt nicht, was da irgendwie mich erwartet und wie das dann irgendwie retroaktiv von Ron Gilbert irgendwie interpretiert wird. Muss ich noch zu kommen, aber ich fand einfach die ganze Theorie von dem Spiel. Also ich habe das bis zu dem Zeitpunkt auch noch nie wirklich so versucht, das komplette Spiel durch die Linse des Endes irgendwie zu betrachten, aber es ergibt schon Sinn.
You boys didn't get in any trouble now, did you?
No,
sir.
I also don't believe Monkey 2 has a conclusive ending, another thing some people want to lean on. I just believe it's the beginning of the end in discussing why Guybrush would want to escape this reality to begin with. There's an underlying story here about Guybrush's parents, who want to make a point of how good to him they are in a way that makes him seem ungrateful, only they might also be dead, which makes no sense. Was he abandoned? Or wait, he has parents? Are these his parents and then a brother? And Ron said, oh, I get it. Ron's clues suggest Guybrush is adopted, his real parents having passed away and Chucky being his half-brother, which is maybe why their relationship is so adversarial, and also why, perhaps, Guy would want to escape to a world unlike his own, especially one that, say, he really enjoyed visiting on his first ride-through, sitting in the car with new kids around him, brought out of his reverie on occasion by a nasty half-brother poking him in the back, and then sneaking onto the ride a second time in a disguise to meet all the cool pirates, only to discover none of them actually care about the world they're employed to represent because none of them are real. Well, TLDR, Game 1 feels like you're on the ride, and Game 2 feels like you've snuck behind the scenes. The progression between the two games becomes about how our illusions as a child can be shattered, the thrill of experiencing a ride you love for the first time, only to see all the flaws the more you do it, the more you obsess, and eventually, the tragedy of having to return to your normal life. How purple. Yeah, this is fitting into a lot of my philosophies, huh? Purple feelings, theme parks. Am I a time traveler? Is Ron Gilbert me? I'm sorry about the cave, guys. I'll do better next time. I think those...
Okay, The Cave auch wirklich so ein... Oh, ich wollte es wirklich mögen. Ich bin auch nicht weit gekommen. Ich wollte es wirklich mögen. Ich weiß gar nicht, wie Ron Gilbert selbst zu The Cave steht. Das scheint auch irgendwie wie so ein... So, ja, cool gewollt, nette Idee, aber nicht wirklich so halt gut umgesetzt, ne?
Mixed feelings, as the creators put it. That very 70s ending. They mesh with everything the two games had been doing up until that point. Some see this as a cop-out, equivalent to, and it was all a dream. But I believe this points to more valuable discussion that validates everything we did in a totally different way. One that isn't in danger of not still being funny. Bittersweet, if anything. What drives us to these fantasies? What do we get out of them if they're not real? After all, the video game we're playing isn't real. But what if they are real and comment on our experiences in reality? Isn't reality just a big theme park anyway? Yeah, alright. There was a point being made here that a follow-up was begging to explore, but unfortunately that's not what happened.
The bit where I'm kind of
Ron
an asshole.
left, taking his interpretation of events with him. Art director Bill Tiller, who would be employed to work on the next Monkey Island project, spilled his side of the beans, claiming that as far as he'd been told, yes, Ron wanted it to be a child's imagination, with a hook in place to generate the possibility of sequels. And then he said, the secret being that the whole Monkey Island world is imagined sucks. Why? Because we want the world of Monkey Island to be real, not in a kid's imagination. This is the problem with all that comes afterwards. It's not that the following Monkey Island games are terrible, far from it. They are perfectly well-intentioned, entertaining stories with decent jokes and puzzles. You get what you paid for. What they aren't, as much as they'd like to be, are remarkable games at all evocative of the mysterious appeal of the first two. And worse, they actually feel way more inaccessibly esoteric by trying to establish themselves so hard as part of this complex lore, even as a joke, which is a long way of saying, they're okay. The irony is that Curse of Monkey Island is something of a great introduction to a series for newcomers when it starts. The new look deliberately caters to a wider audience, an accessible toon style that was, at the time, a huge marketing flex, and it is quite fun to look at. Major players Guybrush, Elaine, and LeChuck are established very quickly as part of an ongoing soap opera. Based on what you see here, you could put the three of them anywhere and let the dynamics kinda write themselves.
Sail with me, and I'll make you queen.
Ja, also es wirkt, also ich glaube auch, wenn du halt so Curse spielst, es fühlt sich an, so das könnte das Spiel zu einer TV-Serie sein. Weißt du, so eine Cartoon-Serie, wo du hast deine Helden, Antagonisten, ne, bestimmte Geschichten passieren, aber so gewisse Konstanten hast du durchweg die ganze Zeit. Ne? Als wenn du irgendwie so Sonic-Cartoon-Serie hast, wo Eggman immer irgendwo der große Antagonist ist die ganze Zeit. Und es fühlt sich an einfach wie ein Spiel, was irgendwie so in diesem kompletten Lore-Ding irgendwie stattfindet. Oder einfach nur als eine weitere, größere Episode oder so. Also Tails eben danach dann auch sehr.
I'm not sure I hate that, and I think it's almost impossible to imagine LeChuck without always thinking of him taking on a new form now. That's great. Flame Demon Beard is great. What a character. We should just meme generate all my punchlines at this point. Bloody hell. All in all, it's on some level in keeping with what we've come to expect. A pirate adventure with lots of anachronisms that, if you're moderately generous, you could say fit within the overall grand plan. There's good ideas here. It makes it very hard to dislike. The cast are strong, that's another plus, with a talent pool of some pretty big VO names, all things considered. It's not often that giving a silent character a proper voice really works, but I don't find myself put off by the choices for those we've already met. Except maybe Stan, who's, well, I've only really liked one of the voices he's gotten. I think when people are casting, they mistake salesman for game show host, and it's the former delivery I'm here for.
Welcome to Stan's previously owned coffins. We handle the dead for a lot less bread.
Celebrity merchandise is always a good investment, especially if you suspect that the celebrity in question is about to become a wind chime in the gallows.
Well, I don't plan on dying today.
And I didn't plan to wear the same jacket for 20 years, but here we are.
Dominic Armotto's great because, yeah, Guybrush is full of youthful optimism, but he's also got a bit of a cheeky, underhanded mean streak, a quick-talking balance Armotto was born to take on. This was made even more apparent when the remasters decided to add in full voice acting, allowing him to prove how well his voice was suited to the dialogue and letting him retroactively become the voice of Guybrush from the very start. And this is possible while using the original graphics and music on the second game. An ideal way to play.
A woodchuck should chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood, as long as a woodchuck would chuck wood.
Ich wünschte, sie hätten es einfach nochmal angepasst, retroaktiv im ersten Teil. So, das war halt ein Feature, was sie erst im zweiten hinzugefügt haben, dass du Retro benutzen kannst, aber eben mit dem Voice-Acting. Und ich kann mir nicht vorstellen, dass das irgendwie unmöglich wäre oder so schwer, das in den ersten Teil zu implementieren. So, vielleicht musst du halt mehr aufpassen von dem Timing her und wie lange irgendwie Sachen on-screen zu sehen sind. Aber es fühlt sich einfach so an wie, oh ja, jetzt sind wir auf die Idee gekommen, wir könnten theoretisch wieder zurückbringen, aber wir wollen das Budget und die Zeit dafür nicht aufwenden. Weil das wäre dann halt so, oh, dann könntest du halt wirklich die ganze Serie in den originalen Stilen jeweils mit der Synchro eben spielen. Und da sticht halt Teil 1 leider so ein bisschen raus, weil wenn du es mit der Synchro spielen willst, dann musst du eben den neuen Look wählen. Und der ist okay. I don't hate it. Aber er ist auch nicht geil.
Oh, shut up.
You know, Dom's a restaurant critic now. Hit him up for the special. It's probably chicken. Where Curse absolutely falls down is in making the series feel so dry. Unlike this guy's back. That's foul. While the visuals are nice and plenty of moments lend a smile, it's not as sharp as the two games that came before, and worse, it seems intent on talking itself into oblivion. I'm someone who likes to exhaust all options in a point and click, because I figure if they made the effort to put it there, it's my duty to find it and get more content to enjoy, and the best make me feel that I'm being constantly rewarded. In Curse, there's a lot I like, but I didn't really feel it was worth doing the full round trip for many of the options. Just not as funny as it seems to think it is. Maybe that's the stigma of point and clicks, who are trying to match the talents of the big boys of comedy who came before, which is easier said than done. Some of it is so laboured, so drawn out in its mediocrity, and certain parts, which people had been building up as being legendary, just kind of came and went.
You say you're nasty pirates, scheming, thieving, bad bushwhackers. From what I've seen, I tell you, you're not pirates, you're just slackers.
A pirate I was meant to be, trim the sails and roam the sea.
Stuck in my head, just not in my heart. But the most egregious offence is how eager it is to unpick Monkey 2's ending, at great length, and in one of the most upsettingly dull dialogue tree experiences of my life. And this is coming from a huge Earl Bowen fan.
I thought the treasure of Big Whoop was on Dinky Island.
Dinky Island be an atoll, just off the coast of Monkey Island. Toast, as he always did, connected by a maze of when the toaster run under the very so vividly owned and when you found me Carnival, you were on Monkey Island.
Ja, das ist schlimm, ne? Ich habe letztens noch mal 1 durchgespielt. Ich bin gerade dabei, 2 noch mal zu spielen. Das ist wirklich super immer noch.
Now LeChuck just owns one. LOL. The pervading idea the game puts forward, that Monkey 2's ending sucked because it wasn't real, is replaced with a massive tome of exposition, trying to craft it into this super elaborate lore that tries to be both a purposely convoluted joke and an attempt to draw out all this new interest in the franchise's world. But it's so overextended, so impossible to connect, and devoid of decent punchlines beyond, hey, isn't Monkey Island so kooky, that it's neither funny nor exciting. It's just a lot of noise. A bit like me. Escape from Monkey Island is probably the worst of the two though. Already less appealing than Curse because the style hasn't been future-proofed, unlike the other game developed on the same engine, and now pressing hard on the continuity backpedal in what I think was an attempt to recapture more of Monkey 1's qualities. We're back on Melee Island, the old crew gets a bigger role, as well as a heavier...
Ich hab das in der PS2-Version damals gespielt. Ich habe das aus der fucking Videothek ausgeliehen. Ich weiß nicht, ob die PC-Version sich irgendwie besser spielt, aber die PS2-Version war eine Katastrophe. Die PS2-Version war wirklich eine Katastrophe zu spielen damals. Das war... Wasn't fun. Wasn't fun. Wouldn't recommend. 7 out of 10.
The commercialism present in 1 and 2.
No, really, grog me.
No, really. ID.
This has its bright spots, being developed by the creators of the excellent Sam and Max Hit the Road game. And as mentioned, it was my first point and click, so definitely had something going for it to keep me interested. Some of the puzzles early on are genuinely creative, and there's enough decent gags strewn across I mentally come back to now and then in my head.
Doesn't Hugo miss being a pirate?
Not especially, no. Although sometimes Hugo misses the wind in his face. And the wenches. And Hugo misses the grog. And the decks covered with the blood of Hugo's enemies. But other than that, no, not a thing.
The villain, Ozymandias, is somewhat topical for the time, a Rupert Murdoch stand-in buying up the islands, and who can't be beaten in insult fights because he's literally too Australian.
You're not within cooey of beating me.
I'm sure that was a stinging insult, but I don't know why.
Aha, but therein lies the rub. These gags don't add up. It has been argued that the game still serves the concept of being lost within a theme park. In this case, a commentary on corporate growing pains that the Disneylands underwent during the Eisner era. And while that seems to have a strong case behind it, there are unmistakable parallels, it doesn't have much confirmed consistency or have anything particularly interesting to say on the subject. Nor does it show Guybrush and Elaine reacting to it in any way that ties into the original twist, unless you really want to stretch a point. Instead, it's people cracking all manner of jokes, further efforts spent on plot revelations that are only there to be revelations, and meandering along a path which throws so much at us that it starts to lose its point. It could be about anything. And it is. I mean, I've seen people use the mandrill gag to call the game wholly redeemable because it's so highbrow, but I don't know, it seems perhaps a bit late to be making fun of the islands becoming more hardcore corporate when they've always been that way. I mean, for God's sake, the first major fourth wall breaking joke is a pirate lighting up when you offer him the opportunity to sell you on Loom, TM. The problem with both these games saying comedy game series no limits comes here with a major case of diminishing returns, especially as, this time around, a bit like Curse, it takes the whole insult fighting thing to stupidly drawn out heights. You know, 2 kinda dropped this gag for a reason. I've already been battered by jokes and ideas from all sorts of angles with the ever-scaling dialogue trees, so I'm more exhausted than amused by Planet Threepwood, the Church of LeChuck, Monkey Combat, and this.
Oh mein Gott. Oh, Monkey Combat. Oh Gott. Oh, das war wirklich eine schlimme Idee in dem Spiel. Ich bin ja auch schon ehrlich kein Fan von dem Swordfighting, auch im ersten Teil. Ich finde, das ist einfach so ein Ding, was du zwischendurch machst und dann grindest du es. Weil du ja wirklich, du musst ja die Insults und die Antworten musst du von den Leuten lernen. Das heißt, du musst halt so lange auf der Insel rumgehen, bis du die halt per Zufall alle dann mitbekommst und gelernt hast. Das ist so, deswegen, ich bin auch froh, dass sie für den zweiten Teil weggelassen haben. Ich glaube, wenn es bei mir so um die Serie geht, ist jetzt glaube ich, nichts Außergewöhnliches. Also wenn ich die jetzt so vom Ranking her, ich meine, ich muss jetzt nochmal 2 nochmal zu Ende spielen, dann eben auch 3, 4 und Tales, aber also von meinem persönlichen Ranking ist es halt 2, 1, Curse, also eine 3, dann eine 5er Tales und dann eben 4. Also das ist, also ich weiß nicht, wo Return reinpassen wird. Ich bin mal echt gespannt. Aber Ich habe die Möglichkeit, einen Review-Code anzufragen, aber ich muss erstmal Call of the Lamb irgendwie durchmachen und ein Video abliefern oder so, bevor ich dann. Ja, ich hätte gerne bitte noch einen Review-Code, obwohl ich das erste noch gar nicht fertig gemacht habe. Danke sehr. Dachte, du gehst um 2 pennen. Warum das denn? Ich bin normalerweise generell lange wach. Ich wünschte, ich würde an den meisten Tagen um 2 ins Bett gehen. Eigentlich wollte ich versuchen, so immer spätestens um 3 irgendwie pennen zu gehen, aber selbst das kriege ich die meiste Zeit nicht hin. Weil ich einfach zu sehr auf irgendein Ding dann fokussiert bin und das dann auch irgendwie fertig machen will. Das ist schlimm.
It's a lot. For most, the sequels
Ich meine, vor allem wenn es halt ein normaler, dieses klassische 24-Stunden-Livestream wäre, dann wäre ich halt immer noch ich meine, dann würde ich ja auch versuchen, halt wirklich 24 Stunden am Stück oder so, aber ja, ich glaube, das ist so auch gesünder gerade ein bisschen.
Just the usual point-and-click business. But playing the originals and how fresh they still feel really illuminates how much the later games have remained stuck in far too comfortable a niche. Bill Tiller, who said "kinda sucks if it's all a dream," has made his own games, some directly riffing on the Monkey Island brand, which are compellingly drawn, but tellingly thin. It's not hard to like something like A Vampire Story on the surface with its setup and decent art direction, but all the good stuff is buried under quagmires of uninteresting, not terribly funny dialogue trees and dull puzzles. Something I think most point-and-clicks after Monkey 2 are guilty of. I don't want to rag on Bill too much. It's not all on him things worked out this way, and he's long since admitted he'd rather see Gilbert's take moving forward, but I think his games best represent the flip side to writing off Monkey 2's intentions. Cramming endless sequel plans and lore into a game does not make it any deeper or more compelling. It just makes it intimidating, especially if someone who might otherwise buy more decides halfway through playing, I can't be arsed with this. This applies to all the creators who thought the best way to move forward was to write off the twist, because your alternative, haha, it was just a ride brah, that is a much closer equivalent to the just a dream problem, where the jokey explanation is so bloated, so outside even the disconnect of disbelief established by the series, that it becomes equally meaningless. I think about the ending of 2 so much, and care so little for the tidy wrap-up of 3. And more importantly, and this is the big thing here, it's not very funny. Looking back, I think Curse should have been a spin-off or reboot, and it was in the perfect position to be so. All you'd have to do is take the idea that, well, if Monkey Island is a theme park ride, it's developed its own franchise within that universe that loads of games and stories could be based around, kinda like in real life. It would be a very Monkey Island way to keep itself alive while winking at the audience, and not have Ron Gilbert having to evoke 3A in front of his dream third game. Even the numerology looks sad now. As much as I love the world of Monkey Island, I love it even better when it might be more than it appears. More than just wacky pirates, the greater suggested commentary being what makes it a quintessential point-and-click speaking for the genre. With these two, what you see is pretty much what you get, without much of an effort to make this feel differently to the act of playing other point-and-clicks. And while we can argue how in many ways it's still about theme parks, it's not really about theme parks, you know? You feel this? You get me? Have I crossed that obnoxious line yet? Well, for some people that was a long time ago. And hey, if that's all part of a joke, great, I'm for that. But please, be a good joke.
Hey guys! I'm stuck down here! Herman? George? Jar Jar?
All of this puts Tales in kind of an interesting place. Tales is an attempt to address the fact that there is no longer any one accepted version of Monkey Island, trying to bring together both the broad soap opera established in Curse and the sense of mystery around Ron Gilbert's take, who was even consulted to give the project some added credibility. Is it entirely successful? No. Telltale had a policy of rapid turnaround in their games, which often limited their story and setting options, which really shows in this one. There are standout episodes, but there's also a lot of guff. A couple new characters I don't think were all that well conceived, and giving Guybrush 2 adoring women who are way out of his league, gosh, there's a really good joke here we just didn't have the time to break into, huh? The trouble is that, kind of like Escape, it's the voice of a company who were doing well with Sam and Max, and that way of thinking is very different from what I think works best for Monkey Island. If you go back and play Hit the Road against the original Monkey, you get more than just point-and-click humor. You get the difference between a laid-back stroll in the park exchanging Oscar Wilde quotes against skydiving off a cliff while watching Airplane on max volume and one of you's a dog. The thought that this approach is just as good again muddies the waters in hitting that monkey vein. But the thing is, those Sam and Max games are kinda good, and this series of games, while compromised, isn't terrible either. It's actually kinda funny. While still having the problem of diminishing returns the previous games were running into, so much dialogue thrown your way to sift through to get to the buried treasure, there's loads I wanted to hear. Returning characters aren't flung in randomly, they're appropriately used depending on the episode's hook, and some make a potentially tedious.
Ich würde eigentlich mal gerne wissen, was nochmal so ein Telltale-Spiel mit richtigem klassischen, nicht klassisch, aber sagen wir mal mit noch Rätsel irgendwie gewesen wäre. Weil die Sam & Max-Titel waren eigentlich ziemlich, also die Rätsel in 1 und 2 waren halt sehr weird teilweise. Also ich musste bei den ersten beiden Staffeln doch relativ oft eine Komplettlösung machen. Das Devil's Playhouse-Ding, das war hervorragend. Das ist also Sam & Max, Devil's Playhouse, diese 3. Staffel, wirklich, ich glaube, das ist immer noch das Beste, was Telltale jemals gemacht haben. Und das Tales from Monkey Island war eben auch so. Ich glaube, das hat eher darunter gelitten, dass es eben wie er ja gesagt hat, auch so als Episoden irgendwie geschrieben werden musste, ohne dass du das Gefühl hattest, es gab so eine richtige Throughline zu das Ganze. Ich muss halt immer wieder zurückdenken an das Zurück in die Zukunft-Spiel. Ich meine, das wurde auch in Episoden geschrieben, aber das fühlt sich halt mehr wie ein komplettes Werk irgendwie an. Auch so als eine eigentliche Story, die geschrieben wurde. Ich meine, das Spiel hat auch das Problem, dass die Rätsel gerade am Ende, wenn du auf dieser Science Fair irgendwie bist, die halt sehr, sehr absurd werden und ich da auch dann in die Komplettlösung irgendwie reingucken musste. Aber ich hätte irgendwie nochmal Bock auf so eine Art von weil, klar, du hattest nachher mit dem Erfolg von Walking Dead war es so, oh mein Gott, wir müssen alles nur noch genauso wie The Walking Dead machen und dann hast du halt Walking Dead, was okay war, was gut war, dann hattest du Wolf Among Us, was okay war, gut war und dann eben noch Tales from the Borderlands, was hervorragend war. Und ich glaube, alles andere, was ich davon gespielt habe, war halt so interessiert sich irgendjemand heute für das fucking Game of Thrones Spiel, was die gemacht haben? Wirklich? Ich hab Walking Dead Staffel 3, glaube ich, nie fertig gespielt und 4 nie angefangen. So, keine Ahnung, ob das irgendwie gut ist. Ich glaube, ansonsten habe ich alles von dieser ganzen Telltale-Phase. Die Batman-Dinger waren, glaube ich, auch noch ganz okay oder so. Aber ich hätte mir einfach noch mal eins gewünscht, wo wirklich versucht wird, irgendwie Rätsel irgendwie einzubauen. Auch in irgendeiner vielleicht sogar etwas aufgebohrten 3D-Engine oder so. Aber ja, keine Ahnung, ich würde mal gerne wissen, so das alternative Universum, wo vielleicht Walking Dead nicht das erfolgreichste ever gewesen wäre. Oder sie vielleicht auch entschieden hätten, hey, vielleicht können wir ja zweigleisig fahren und wir machen da, wo es Sinn ergibt, diese story-fokussierten Spiele und da, wo es weniger Sinn ergibt, vielleicht doch eher eine klassische Point-and-Click, aber es war so, nein, das ist erfolgreich und wir machen jetzt nur noch das, bis wir die komplette Firma einfach in Grund und Boden fahren. Ups, das ist tatsächlich passiert.
Situation more bearable. Specifically the return
of
everyone's
favorite. Das Guardians of the Galaxy, stimmt, das habe ich nie durchgespielt. Aber ja, das war auch noch da, das war irgendwie auch so. Das hatte, glaube ich, einen ganz guten Ansatz, weil das Spiel damit arbeitet, so was passiert, wenn wir wirklich irgendwie Thanos töten würden, am Anfang besiegen würden. Das war ein ganz guter Ansatz, aber ich hab's irgendwie fallen gelassen, Episode 2 oder 3 nicht mehr gespielt. Wallace & Gromit war auch cool, da habe ich alle vier Parts auch gespielt auf der Xbox, aber auch da waren einfach, viele der Rätsel waren einfach so absurd, wo ich niemals drauf gekommen wäre.
See you in court, Stan.
Hey, that's pretty funny.
I have to confess, I never really loved Murray, not as much as Curse wanted me to, but this game makes it work, building on the fact he thinks he has more power than he actually does by giving him pals who think the same, and it pays off. Very Muppets.
In my day, I could turn a man to stone with a smirk. I can make blood boil with a scowl. And all I need is a reason.
And lips.
What lifts this out of pure mediocrity is the use of the leads, probably some of the most interesting attempts to develop the characters they've had in a while, and I feel like there are attempts to tie that into the original two games' intentions. The Voodoo Lady revelation seems to line up with all the previous titles, as well as, potentially, whatever interpretation you have of what's going on in the series altogether. LeChuck takes on another new form, a human, and while they kind of bungled that in Escape, which wasn't that interested in using it as more than a disguise, in Tales we explore the idea of a reverse LeChuck, how he, Guybrush, and Elaine could all actually be great friends, which we believe in thanks to another stellar performance from the late great Kevin Blackton.
Oh yeah? Well, you fight like a...
Again, I think this dynamic also fits whatever interpretation you have of this series as a whole. There's plenty to read into, lots to validate you across the entire game, though I totally accept it's very probably just what I focus on.
Were you really worried about me? I mean, you did stop to chat with these fish people.
So, right, yeah, life is good to LeChuck. Guybrush, on the other hand, gets torn apart in his own quest to win back Elaine, eventually becoming both a ghost and a zombie, pushed further and further away from Elaine, and eventually dragged into an exhausting duel with the, of course, actually evil LeChuck, in a battle that echoes their first so many years ago. It's worth noting that your time spent in the afterlife in this episode has a lot of interesting features that point to a particular idea, and once you use it to help secure your victory, the final sound you hear before LeChuck dies might seem, well, familiar.
Ich hab glaube ich, Tales auch zum Glück nur auf dem PC gespielt, gar nicht erst auf Konsole. Ich glaube, weil die keine 360-Fassung hatten.
Now, Telltale never made any more because around that time, Disney bought LucasArts and effectively shut down all games production. But even if it wasn't affected by the Disney stranglehold, Tales feels dragged down by uncertainties, and in a horrible way that's become the appeal of the series, a fundamental change brought about by the split in priorities across 20 plus years. Playing everything after 2 might make you wonder why the series didn't keep on, but playing those before gear your brain for a different frustration, one that we will likely never see closure for in our lifetimes. Doesn't have the staying power of Bubsy, you see. Didn't make 1 billion views on YouTube videos, you see. Ain't got meme power, you see. He's a cat. Hey ha, hey ha, hey ha, 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 ha. Perhaps it's chasing the secret that keeps it fresh, but at this point I think it's given Monkey Islander's somber tone, of a series that will never truly feel fulfilling. The secret being that once you start getting involved, trying to take revenge, you too will be cursed, and the only way to escape is to, sadly, give up, and live to tell the tale. Yeah, I thought that sentence was a lot smarter in my head. Is this why I didn't commit too deeply before? Did I anticipate that getting close to it would have the whole secret fall down around me, caught in a trap that I can't point and click my way out of? This isn't funny. This isn't funny at all. I shouldn't be waxing poetic about a game with a rubber chicken with the pulley in the middle, but here I am, you know, unpicking the fabric of this fine leather jacket, thread by thread. Oh, I'm such a fan. I'm such a fan. I know so much about this series. I can do all the quotes.
Ich finde, das ist wirklich eine gute Idee für eine Transition.
Hey everyone, thanks again, another weird video. I would like to thank everyone who has stayed a patron in the weird times. It's been really nice to have people fund this work, and so I can keep making it. I'm excited. I got a lot more videos out.
Generell einfach nur
time, and these names are the reason I did it.
Sehr große Empfehlung für B-Mask. Wirklich nur ein Kanal, den ich sehr empfehlen kann. Wirklich einer meiner absoluten Lieblingskanäle. Einfach auch, weil die Themen, die besprochen werden und die Art und Weise, auf die sie besprochen werden, auch so vollkommen unique sind. Also so, dass ich die Takes und die Art und Weise, wie darüber gesprochen wird, sonst nirgendwo bekomme. Und das, was ich, glaube ich, allen Leuten sofort ans Herz legen kann, ist ich glaube, das ist auch das meistgesehene wahrscheinlich, wenn ich hier... Ja, das ist die Sly-Retrospektive. So, die kann ich definitiv empfehlen. Geht auch gut ordentlich, muss ich sagen, ist man einfach nur beschäftigt. Das Fantastic Four-Ding ist auch als jemand, der von den Comicbüchern 0 Ahnung hat, kann ich es auch verstehen. Und natürlich das auf dem verdienten 5. Platz Rich Evans on Dating.
Get laid. I'm Rich Evans. I've gotten laid. You can do it.
Oh.
Das ist also meine absoluten Lieblingsquotes.
Get laid. I'm Rich Evans. I've gotten laid. You can do it.
Oh.
Oh. Ich find nichts so auch motivierend irgendwie. Oh mein Gott. Nein, Björn, wir gucken jetzt nicht Rich Evans mispronouncing words. Das gucke ich immer, passiert meistens. Ich klicke auf dieses Video für die 4 Sekunden und dann wird das angezeigt. Mit Folding Table. Oh. Alles klar. Aber gut, Leute. Dann gehen wir. Ich habe hier die Playlist vorbereitet. Das sollte eigentlich die ganze Nacht durchhalten. Eigentlich sollte es die ganze Nacht durchhalten. Ich glaube von der Zeit her, ja, ne? Da sind so ein paar ordentliche Brecher drin an Zeit. Genau, das heißt, ich werde jetzt den Timer, ich hoffe, das funktioniert jetzt. Ich bin bei 13,5 irgendwas. Ich hoffe, das funktioniert jetzt, wenn ich jetzt hier Start und Stopp drücke.